The room was filled with silence, not the ordinary kind, but the kind that feels heavy, almost sacred, like every breath carried a memory. As loved ones gathered to say goodbye to Dash Crofts, no one was truly prepared for what would happen next. Because in a moment that would leave everyone in tears, his wife stepped forward, and what she said would turn grief into something unforgettable. This wasn't just a farewell, it was a story of love, legacy, and a bond that refused to fade. Dash Crofts, best known as one half of the legendary soft rock duo Seals and Crofts, wasn't just a musician, he was a voice of an era. Songs like Summer Breeze didn't just play on radios, they lived in people's hearts. His melodies carried warmth, peace, and a kind of honesty that's rare in today's world. And as news of his passing spread, fans across generations felt the same shock, like losing a familiar comfort they didn't realize they still held on to. The funeral service itself was intimate, yet deeply emotional. Family, close friends, and a few fellow musicians gathered to celebrate a life that had touched millions. There were no grand distractions, no overwhelming displays, just quiet dignity, soft music, and the weight of remembrance. Every detail seemed to reflect who Dash was: gentle, thoughtful, and deeply spiritual. But the most powerful moment came when his wife, Billie Lee Crofts, slowly walked to the front. You could feel the shift in the room instantly. People leaned forward, some already wiping tears, sensing that something deeply personal was about to unfold. And when she began to speak, her voice, though fragile, carried a strength that stunned everyone present. She didn't begin with sorrow. Instead, she smiled. "I don't want today to be about loss," she said softly. Because Dash never believed in endings, he believed in continuation. Those words alone seemed to echo through the entire room. It was as if, in that moment, she reminded everyone of the very essence of the man they had come to mourn. Dash Crofts wasn't just about music. He was about connection, about faith, about the idea that life moves forward in ways we don't always understand. As she continued, Billie Lee shared stories that no fan had ever heard before. She spoke about the quiet moments, the late-night songwriting sessions, the laughter over simple things, and the deep conversations that lasted until sunrise. She described Dash not as a star, but as a husband, a father, and a soul who believed in kindness above all else. And then came the moment that truly broke the room. She pulled out a small, worn piece of paper. "This," she said, holding it carefully, "is the last note Dash wrote before he passed." The silence that followed was almost unbearable. Every eye was fixed on her, every heart pounding with anticipation. With trembling hands, she read aloud words that felt almost like a goodbye, but not in the way anyone expected. The note wasn't filled with sadness or regret. Instead, it carried peace. "Don't be afraid of missing me," the note read, "because I'll always be in the music, in the breeze, in the quiet moments when you feel love the most." By then, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. It wasn't just what he said, it was how deeply it reflected who he was. Even in his final words, Dash Crofts was giving comfort, offering reassurance, and turning something painful into something meaningful. The tribute didn't end there. As Billie Lee stepped back, a soft instrumental version of Summer Breeze began to play. But this time it felt different. This time it wasn't just a song, it was a goodbye. A gentle, melodic farewell that wrapped around everyone present like a memory they didn't want to let go of. Friends and fellow musicians later shared their own reflections, each one painting a picture of a man who wasn't driven by fame, but by purpose. They spoke of his humility, his spirituality, and his unwavering belief in the power of music to heal. For many fans, Dash Crofts represented a simpler time, an era when music felt pure and messages were heartfelt. And in today's fast-paced world, that kind of authenticity feels even more rare. His passing isn't just the loss of an artist. It's the closing of a chapter that meant so much to so many. But if there was one message that stood out from the entire service, it was this: Dash's story isn't over. Because as Billie Lee so beautifully expressed, his presence lives on, not just in records or performances, but in the feelings his music creates. In the calm of a summer evening, in the sound of a gentle breeze, in the quiet moments when life slows down and you remember what truly matters. As the service came to an end, guests didn't rush to leave. Instead, they lingered, sharing memories, embracing one another, and holding on to the warmth that Dash had brought into their lives. It didn't feel like a goodbye. It felt like a continuation, just as he had always believed. And maybe that's the most powerful legacy of all. Not fame, not success, but the ability to leave behind something that still speaks, even in silence. Dash Crofts may be gone, but his voice, his spirit, and his message will continue to echo for generations to come.